The Sharpest College Football Podcast. This is our Week 7 preview. My name is BuckMetrics. I am with Robert Martin, who is in lovely Canada. Robert, we did not have the best of weeks, Week 6, but overall we are doing okay. Looking at our record last week, dual model plays went 6-6. My totals went 5-6. But for the season, 25-17, I will take that anytime. And if you were fortunate / desperate enough to be with us from day one, you'd have a ROI of 24%. So overall, I would take that. I'm sure you would too.
Yeah, and the thing was, for some of those plays, it wasn't even close. Some of those were real. I felt so good about some of those. The Tennessee Arkansas under, that we got like 3 points of closing line value, and then it wasn't even close to the closing value of that either. We had insane value on that one. A lot of other really great plays as well. We got a little unlucky on some of those. I think, yeah, here's the recap here. The UCF and Florida, that one was never going to be close. But like the Nevada San Jose State one, they won that one by exactly 7, so that one sucked. What else? Louisiana minus 14. I think they
We
won
talked
that.
about in part 1. That was
Yeah,
frustrating. They
that
should
one
have
was.
crushed them.
They should have crushed them. Bowling Green as well. That one was annoying as well. They only won that one by 7. So not lost those ones, but again, mostly directionally based ones on that one. And I think that's a little unfortunate, but we move on from those. We were on a little bit of not. I don't think it was the wrong side. We just got a little unlucky on those ones. But the ones we crushed, like Washington, the Tennessee, Arkansas one, Navy, that one, we were right. Like our spread in the game was right. We're
Yeah.
like, the spread is died. We're like, oh, no, it's 30, and it was like 30. So no, we got those ones right. So yeah.
Yeah. In my season or my total plays for week 6, the one that sticks out to me, you mentioned the the Tennessee one. Where's it? Yeah, the first one there. That was never in doubt. USC at Minnesota, that was just, you watched that game for 10 minutes and it was like, okay, these are two offenses that don't really have it going today, or maybe they do, and that's just what they are. So that was not a fun one for me to watch, but as an under better, at least I got some solace in that one. So if you are new, thank you so much. And if you are a returning viewer or listener, thank you so much as well. We appreciate you giving us more and more views and listens. If it's your first time, this is a glossary that we refer to throughout this podcast. Take a picture of this and save it in your college football workbook for 2024 and refer to it this episode and the rest of the season. Looking at the BuckMetrics through week 6, the top 20 teams, no surprise here, Texas number 1. A couple things that stick out to me. Let's just go to the end here. 2 new entrants, Iowa at number 18 off a loss. I think that speaks to just how powerfully ranked Ohio State is when you have a dud like that and you move into the top 20. And then James Madison with that crazy loss to Louisiana Monroe, who has insane good luck this season. You lose that one and you sneak into the top 20. It's interesting. But the things I wanted to talk about are very interesting to hear. I was a little concerned having Ole Miss at number 3, and then you actually come in at number 1, which makes me feel a lot better. Underrated game at South Carolina, and I'll go into that in a little bit later. I also love, obviously I'm concerned, Army's not the number 14, but I think they're legit. You have them at number 9, which is really interesting. They're a complete team. They play on both sides of the ball. A couple others here. Iowa State, we both have them at number 6. We're just ahead of the market on this one. I'm comfortable. I know that they're that good. And Washington, like I said, when I had my first metrics, I was sheepish and embarrassed and thought that was a bug, but they've crept up in your rankings number 8 as well. That's what sticks out to me. What about to you?
Yeah, just looking at this, I think the funniest one there has to be Notre Dame and Louisville. So you have them 14-15 because Notre Dame did beat Louisville in their matchup in the season. So obviously Notre
Yep.
Dame's better than Louisville. But I have Notre Dame 50th. So I'm like, where do I have Louisville? Then 10 lower than Louisville. Like I think that's hilarious that you're like, they're both like Notre Dame's ahead of Louisville, but you're like, oh, they're 1 better. I'm like, no, they're like 10 better, but they're both horrible. So yeah, I think that one's kind of funny. Other than that, mostly in line. I think Georgia's a little low on mine 29. That's really weird, but I
Yeah.
think there's a lot that's pulling it down. I think that what I said there in kind of part 1, it's the knock-on effects, right? Oh, you lost to the team that lost to Bama, down, right? And even Alabama down to 11, right? Rather, you have them at higher, right? My model will react negatively to a loss like that, especially a loss. If you lose by 3, but you outgain the other team, right? Okay, yeah, the model will be kind to you. But if you get beat badly, then that's what'll happen there. I think Ole Miss one is funny, right? Because we talk about it, and it's just I was thinking about it. I'm like, why does my model have Ole Miss one? And I was like, that's weird. But I'm like, oh, you know what? My model is just saying all these teams are bad. Let's just say Ole Miss is the best one. I just think Ole Miss is fine. Every other team has massive question marks. Let's just say Ole Miss is the best. Texas obviously can be up there too, but not the greatest of. We didn't really talk about it, but not the greatest of performance against Mississippi State. They won. They didn't cover the spread, but they won. But Mississippi State is probably one of the worst SEC teams, if not the worst
Yeah.
SEC team. I think there's a lot of Texas is like we talk about Ohio State not being tested. Texas has also not been tested. That, however, changes at 3:30 Eastern this Saturday. So that is one to watch this weekend for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking up here. That's to make the playoff. To win the national championship, we talked about this a little bit in part one about this team. What about this team? They are at actually higher odds, and you have them as number one. I have them at number three. At 18 to 1, I don't see anybody I think that the top two are right, and after that it's a crapshoot, and I guess I'm comfortable sliding them at number three, especially since you do have them at number one. At 18 to 1, I think they offer by far the best value of that next, what we have as the next group, and I think the market doesn't have as the next group, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd consider Ole Miss there. Even Tennessee, right, to some extent. Iowa State, I think, is the best Big 12 team. Army, again, like I'd love to. I should check that. What is Army's odds to make the college football playoff? Army's probably you're probably getting what 20 to. There's no way it's a good number. Like for them, like it's a good number for us. There's no way it's less than 20 to one. Is there? Let me see. To make the playoff,
Yeah, a specific unlicensed book that
Army
I'm looking at doesn't even have them. Yeah, what are they?
25 to one on Bet 365. That's a good
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, it is.
That's a good number. I will take that number. So, yeah, I might bet that when we're done here. Yeah.
All right, so we get to our top offenses, and this is, I think, what's driving that Louisville is I have them as the best offensive team in the country now. Kansas State jumps into the top 20 at number 10, which is interesting. Avery Johnson seemed to have gotten his act somewhat together. Three new teams in here. Iowa State, surprisingly. Now, I guess playing Baylor might help your cause there. Penn State now, top 20 in offense and defense, which is tricky, especially for my Trojans. And Coastal Carolina, I'm just going to go full revisionist history and say, hey, Robert, our guy Tim Beck, we never had a doubt. Top
Never a
20
doubt.
offense in Coastal.
Yeah.
That just, we saw it coming.
Always Tim Beck fans. Always believed in him.
Yeah. But I'm telling you, Iowa State in the top 20 offense, that is, I liked their quarterback coming to the season, but I knew the strength was going to be a defense. But you have an offense like that in a weird conference, they just might run away with this whole thing, huh? In
Well,
the
see,
Big 12 at least.
that's the hidden piece in that too, right? Like the Big 12 is, and you see this a lot, right? It's an offensive dominant conference. Many times it's been called the Madden Conference in the past, and that's definitely still there. But so to compete there, you need to have a good offense. But at the same time, if you have a good defense, that's like the hidden piece that will basically win the game for you. But having good offense is the thing that will put you over the top, right? Okay, yeah, you can make a low scoring game in the Big 12, right? You can force your other team, but if their offense is just better, then you're basically playing okay, which is better, right? Is my offense that much better than their defense, or is my defense better than their offense, right? And if their offense is horrible, then yeah, eventually a good offense will wear down the defense, and then you'll score those points, right? You'll win by a field goal, by a touchdown. But if your offense is suddenly able to have long extended drives, get that defense well rested, and put pressure on that offense, make them do stupid mistakes, then
Yeah.
guess what? You're in really good shape there. So I think that's part of the point here.
And don't overlook, it's, seems a little forgotten now because Matt Campbell was, I'd say, stupidly getting a lot of crap. He hasn't won the Big 12. Well, guess what? Now you don't have Texas and Oklahoma to suck all the oxygen out of the talent room here. It's a different dynamic here. Yeah, I'm feeling comfortable about I don't know, comfortable. I'm delighted. I think I got 12 to 1 on them to win the Big 12 before the season. All right. Some of the team offensive metrics. GAB is the best running teams. Oregon State jumps in there to the top 10 at number 6. Notre Dame in at number 9. Team Ryan, which is basically your passing explosivity. Pittsburgh at number 4 with that new offense under Cade Bell and Eli Holstein working out very well. Then 4 other teams new to the top 10. San Jose State, not really a surprise. It's been clear for a while that the Spread and shred is working very well, and they have a great receiver, Nick Nash. TCU, we've talked about Jack Betch a few weeks now. You mentioned in part one about just Curtis Work now asserting himself in the passing game for Indiana, and James Madison, not a surprise with how great Alonzo Barnett III has been for James Madison. So, what sticks out to you on these?
Yeah, if you had said, even if you had told us, hey, guess what? Indiana's going to have a top
Yeah,
10 team Ryan, be like, no. Could they be good? Yeah, but not that good. But here you are. GGAB, again, Army, yeah, that makes sense. Boise makes sense. Navy makes sense. Most of those make sense. But yeah, the Ryan Pitt, again, a team we never would have thought to put there. San Jose State as well. TCU, again, Josh Hoover or Hooven, just just up chucks the ball 400 passing yards. So that kind of makes sense that he get there. But yeah, no, outside of that, there's some really kind of crazy stuff with that Ryan one. A lot of teams you wouldn't have expected there.
yeah, yeah. All right. So the top 10 player Apex and Ryan's offense goes in the top 20. Look who's number 6 on the Apex list. Ethan Vasco of Coastal Carolina, just the only new entrant this week. Would also like to, excuse me, point out, even though his odds quadrupled from 2-1 to 10-1 in the Heisman Trophy, Jalen Milrow still has basically the highest Apex for anybody that doesn't play for a service academy. And I think that we saw probably most of this jump of Mr. Restrepo into the top 10 Ryan on that play that doomed Cal right after the missed personal foul
Targeting,
penalty for targeting.
targeting.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
the very next play he got like 60 yards. So welcome to
yeah,
the top 10, Mr. Restrepo.
yeah, and he is powering a lot of that Miami offense. And again, good for them, good for Cam Ward, but again, bit of a warning sign when it's yeah, that great big 60-yard play. Like there's warning signs there for Cal, but again, that receiver seems to be pretty good and definitely working with Cam Ward. So that again, I think we might see him in the NFL draft at some point. So
Yep. All right, a little history lesson this time. So the bum list. I was talking to Hambone. Hambone basically developed with me the bum list around 2008. And don't know if you're familiar with this guy, Jonathan Crompton for Tennessee. Was that before you were really into college football, Robert?
I
Do
think
you
so.
remember him?
Yeah. No, I don't remember
Yeah,
him.
he
No.
was really talking with him around this time was when we really created the bum list because it was like some of these guys are just you cannot. I don't care how good the defense is or the running game, just the quarterback is going to kill you. So shout out history lesson to Jonathan Crompton. Do a little Hambone implored me to just give him a little love. So hope he enjoys this. Jonathan Crompton, true inspiration to us all. And along those lines, welcome to the bum list, Braden Fowler Nicolosi. Not what I was hoping for before the season when I was hoping for a little bit better from Colorado State. Similarly, Brett Gabbert. Thank you, making me look like an absolute idiot. As I said, you might remember in the MAC preview, I said, hey, guess what? Only one of these teams in the MAC can pass, and it's Miami. That's why I think they're going to win the MAC. And he treats me by taking a trip right to the bum list as well. Ethan Garber's UCLA. I guess the good news for the Bruins is that he's hurt and he might not play because you have this kind of number and they're catching a really good Minnesota pass defense. That could get ugly in a hurry. And Giovanni McCoy, I'm still not certain what to do with the Pac-2, but I'm certain that this team cannot pass the ball. Um, any reflections on this list?
No, I think this is pretty much as I see it as well. Brandon Shager for Hawaii, that one's rough as well. Jalen Daniels again, I still can't believe they're on there. But yeah, Britt Gabbard, Miami, they're not good this year, and Colorado State also weirdly not good this year. But that kind of you saw that when they were losing to Colorado. Yeah,
Yeah. All right. Defensive side of the ball, top 20. One thing before we get to the new teams, this is one reason I'm so impressed by Ole Miss's effort at South Carolina, coming off a tough home loss to Kentucky. You go to a place that can be tough. South Carolina, it seems, finally has an identity, which is weird because I just never knew what they are. So they are a good defense. So I'm impressed. This makes what Ole Miss did with that handy win, notwithstanding what that idiot at ESPN wrote. I'm impressed with Ole Miss. New teams to the top 20 on defense. Nebraska at number 12. Seemed like just a matter of time. They've just been good defensively for a while. Same with Kentucky. Surprising they weren't in there before. And Oklahoma. These two just, I believed coming into the season, and in Kentucky Once the season started, it was a matter of time. And this is what's really interesting here. Army, top 20 offense and defense, and that's normalized for strength of opponent. Now, sharp people would probably have just looked and in the last 10 minutes just grabbed Army to make the college football playoff. Do you know anybody like that, Robert?
Yeah, no, not yet. But Oklahoma being up there is interesting, though. I think because I think they've had a couple unders in their games, and again,
Yeah.
this is now going to be by far the best defense Texas will have played all year,
Yeah.
and possibly the best defense they've played since Oklahoma last year, actually, because the Washington defense is not particularly good. So this might be the best defense they've played in a whole year. And I'm not 100% sure if Quinn Ewers is playing in this game. I think he's playing.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It
I
could
don't
be
know. Haven't
Archie
heard
it could
anything.
be Archie Manning's first start. And I would be a first it would theoretically be a road start asterisk. It's not it's the neutral site, but I guess it's
Neutral site.
neutral site, but it's I guess it's on the road. It's not at
Well,
home.
it's halfway between the two, and the stadium's half and half.
Yeah, that
So it's
game
like
is
half of a road game.
yeah,
Depends
that
on
game
which where you are.
Yeah, it's that one's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that game. I'm not sure if I'm going to bet. Technically, I actually already bet it. I bet it in the preseason. I got Oklahoma 8.5. It's 14.5. So currently, stonks go down. But I think I'm not counting it as a lost bet yet. I think that there's hope.
Yeah. All right. Some team metrics interesting here in terms of pass defense. Washington at number 4. Seems like the Steve Belichick thing is working out for them nicely. Um, this is interesting. So Ohio State, yeah, you play Iowa, that's going to happen. Fresno State did not play, and just them sneaking into the top 10 just talks, like I spoke about earlier, a lot of the normalization that happens in weeks 5 and 6. You don't play, but everybody else's numbers just normalize and regress, and that's what happens. You don't play, and you're in the top 10 when you weren't the week before. From a run defense standpoint, we talked about these two teams just sneaking into the top 20 on defense, and that's really on the strength of their run defense. This is a cumulative number. So these are some really good defenses right here. And again, you have this Oklahoma, you have going against Texas, that Red River, just there's, you have this right here. That Red River, a lot of arrows are pointing to a play that you might see coming in a little bit here. Anything stick out to you in these lists?
No, Toledo being good against the run is pretty cool. That's a little unexpected. But yeah, Fresno State is weird how they just stayed put and everybody just got worse. Yeah.
Yep. And this is what I was talking about with Ethan Garbers and UCLA. This I'm flummoxed now that I have a more personal frame of reference for as supposedly unathletic as especially those former Big Ten West teams are. They are amazing in pass coverage. They cover so well. They
Hmm.
cover better than guys that should be more athletic at schools like USC. And I guess it's just amazing coaching. They do not give you windows to throw at, and they get after you on pass or on rushing as well. So good luck with that, UCLA. I think we'll talk about that coming up shortly. So, all right, our week 7 game previews. So we got a few here that are not plays, but just since this is an amazing weekend that we've been looking forward to for over a month now, just some of the bigger games before we get to the plays. Ohio State, now the line's down to 3.5 at Oregon. My thoughts, you've got tremendous balance here in my numbers here in terms of their offense. You've got this is interesting. Oregon's just in that next level on both sides of the ball here, although defense, they're bettable from an under standpoint. Pretty even on your offensive and defensive, except when you get to this. Basically, nobody runs on Ohio State. This running metric for Oregon has improved since the beginning of the season when they couldn't run the ball very effectively. So I think this is going to be an interesting matchup right here. This against this amazing run defense, and the fact that it's at home is another kind of dimension to throw into it. Obviously, I think this is the most fun game to watch this season. I've got Ohio State by 8. You have Ohio State by 6. When Hambone texted me on Saturday, asked me what I thought the line was. I thought it would be Ohio State by 4.5. So we're about in that range. I think that we're looking at a one-score Ohio State victory, but an Oregon win, especially at that tough place, would not surprise me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think Ohio State has had to go to the West Coast for a long time for a game, I don't think, outside of a Rose Bowl or
That's out of a
something.
bowl. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is that element to it. I think this is also Ohio State because they played Iowa at home, right? So this is Ohio. They were at home, right, last week, I think.
No,
I
that was at
think.
Iowa.
Oh, that was at Iowa because they've had their first.
Oh, no, 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 no. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. That was a home game.
Yeah, so
That was a
technically
different home game.
first.
Yeah.
It's first road conference game. Oregon, I think, played at UCLA. I think now it's not the most quote unquote road game, but it's a road game. It is still. It's a distance. So I thought my model would like Oregon here maybe, but I saw 6 and I was like, oh, I wonder what your model has, and your model has 8 here. So there definitely like Ohio State is the favorite, and there definitely seems to be consensus on Ohio State being the favorite. I don't know. I probably am not going to play this game. I'm probably going to watch this game, and maybe I might find a rhythm betting it or something. Maybe I'll like if Ohio State scores first, then maybe we can get like an 8.5 or something. I'll think about that. I don't know. I don't love any of the. I don't really see a huge value on anything here, really. But I definitely want to watch this game, and
Yeah.
I'd love to see. I think this is probably outside of Alabama, Ohio, outside of Alabama, Georgia. This is probably like the next best game. But note how this is also at nighttime, and for some reason Texas, Oklahoma is not. Shout out to ESPN just apparently seeding the 7 o'clock window to this game. Thank you for that. That was great. Yeah.
All right. Next game Penn State at USC. This is interesting. You've got this huge disparity right here. Now, what's really crazy is USC has played between Michigan and Minnesota, two outstanding pass defenses. I think that Penn State is not going to be any tougher than what they've seen. Going back a few slides, you might remember Minnesota's defensive apex is a -1. Not really sure about the quality of opponent that Penn State has played either, to that matter, too. So that's interesting. I think where this one falls apart for USC is their run game's been okay, not great, and you've got a tremendous run defense here with Penn State. Great overall defense by Penn State. I think that's really where just USC gets up against it. Penn State's even got more explosivity this year. Now, again, they've played easier pass defenses than USC. So I was a little surprised that this one comes in. It's only a 7-point game in favor of Penn State. You have it even closer than that.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of this is at Penn State's. I think they've had just one road game this year. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
So my model has a venue adjustment to it. Basically knocks them down for having, or it mitigates their outstanding performance in home games and just normalizes it. So now you've got that switch to a road game as well. So that's why this is more within reach of what I thought. But again, you've got a little closer than I do. I think that 30-23 sounds about right to me.
Yeah, I think so. I do like USC here. I don't. Penn State, another team that has not been the most tested here. Their biggest kind of win came against a West Virginia team that doesn't look that great right now. And then they were randomly competitive against Bowling Green, which is never a good sign. So, yeah, I could see myself betting USC here. Honestly, I don't think it's that crazy. Um, we'll see. I'm thinking about this one.
For the record, I do think it's crazy. I'm not betting that.
Okay, fair.
All right, now we're getting to the plays. Here we go. We have two
Oh
dual
wow.
model plays on this one. Texas and Oklahoma. We've got Texas elite on both sides of the ball. This is where we need to be a little careful here, Robert. We've got the best pass defense in the country, along with Minnesota here. I got this backwards. Pardon me. This is Texas has a 163 apex. Oklahoma has a 62. I think that's where it can get tricky. Although there's a lot of Jackson Arnold in that Oklahoma number. The new kid is just very different. Now this is a different game entirely for him. But one note that I put here is their offensive power rating through the Tennessee game for Oklahoma. They're a -5.5. And then they've had one game since, and that was at Auburn, a road game, and their offensive rating was a +3.6. So I get a little concerned about this, but even if we add this delta here, just say, okay, this is more emblematic, let's add 9 points of power. That still makes it a 30-14 game, which isn't a great margin, but that's pretty optimistic. And then you throw in the fact that this is by far the biggest stage for the new quarterback Hawkins. So maybe we just add a few points. I'm there. Interestingly, we both have Oklahoma scoring 5. So I guess we both have a safety in there somewhere. Stay tuned for something even more interesting in a later game. So I've got this easily under, and you've got an elite, the best defense here. You've got it safely under. So it is a dual model play on both Texas and Oklahoma, with the proviso that this kid might just shove it in our face and it wouldn't be the first time.
So that is interesting. I saw mine 38-5, and I'm like, oh, there's no way. This must be some sort of bug. I know Buck will have it more competitive, but apparently you don't. You're right there with me. But yeah, I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I do the under in this. Red River totals are a bit inflated because some of these, it was called the Red River Shootout for a while, for a reason. Maybe those overs are a little inflated for this game. I could see an under in this game. I wouldn't hate that. I do worry about this game, though. There is the rivalry component. It always seems, oh yeah, in the years where this game seems the most decided, sometimes that's when you see the biggest upsets. But at the same time, though, this game last year was a blowout. Or no, sorry, not 2 years ago. 2 years ago was a blowout. Last year, Oklahoma upset them with a big spread too. I think Oklahoma was a big dog there, about 8.5 point dog. They lost. They beat Texas outright. So could we see it again? Yeah, we could. I think we could see it again. I think, yeah, 2 years ago was when Oklahoma got trounced in this game. That's right. Remember, that was Scott Frost. That was his last game. They destroyed Nebraska, and
Yep.
then they got destroyed by Texas the next week in Red River. Yeah, I don't know. When I see a number like that, like when the books are like when the books are giving me a softer line on Texas than my model has, I start getting a little worried about that. But that being said, though, I'm actually on board with the under. Though I like the under, I might play that under. But the spread, I'm a little iffy on. I feel like something's amiss there.
And just to clear up one thing too, the dual model usually requires a touchdown plus margin. I don't know if you remember in the season premiere when I went over the different angles. When you've got, there's two levels of the underplays. When you've got like the super elite defenses, you can play to just a margin of 5. I think if the power rating is like 11 or higher for a defense. So you've got that here. And so this margin of 6.5 versus the posted total, that's more than enough. Plus, if it helps that you've got another very reliable defense here in Oklahoma too. So this is the only exception you're going to see to that 7-7. We need two margins of 7 between the two models. So that's, if in case you're wondering, that's why that is. This next one doesn't really surprise me since our models are both so bullish on Mississippi. You've got, this is a raw apex, and they had a lot of easy competition until their last two games. But now you've faced two really good defenses in South Carolina and Kentucky, and you've still got a really high apex here. You know, when we talked about Ole Miss before, one of the concerns we've had is basically, is Jackson Dart just okay, but not really good? I think I might start to be believing in him, he said with a question mark in his tenor. This is a really good number. And they run the ball very well. And they are super duper explosive. And they have given up the least run yards above expectation of anybody in FBS. They are elite on both sides of the ball. I have the Rebs by 12. You have them by 19. 3 points to me is a freaking gift. I am all over that.
Yeah, I like this. I think I'm going to play this for sure. I like it.
And what really stands out too, you've got two elite offenses, one elite defense, and you've got, hey, we haven't fixed it yet. And this is basically I just look, are my numbers like the best in the world? No, there's probably a bunch of nerds that don't understand the game, but they have something that's more better. But I think there's just no appreciation for just how deficient this is compared to the rest of the squads. It's just this does not hold up against this. It just doesn't. I don't care if it's at LSU. Maybe that helps a little bit, but this is, Robert, this is worse than USC's number last year. I don't know if you remember this. USC had some problems on defense. You might
A
remember a
few.
guy named Alex Grinch. Okay. Anyways, we'll move on. Love that play. Delighted to play it. My guy.
Yeah, I wanted to talk
you,
about.
you wanted to make sure that we covered this. So,
Yeah, for a couple of reasons. One, this is the Tuesday game, so we're recording this on Monday. This will be played tomorrow. I'm really confused by this game. That's what I want to talk about. I want to talk it out. Like, so the spread is 17 and a half. I have this 36 to 12 to 10, so I have them a 26 point favorite here. but Liberty has looked horrible, horrific. And to the point where you question whether or not Jamie Chadwell should get an SEC job based on how they've looked in the first couple of weeks here. Now, you have a spread that I think would seem more correct, but yet the spread is 17 and a half. If the spread was 7, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense, and I'll bet Liberty that makes sense. But the spread is so high, and I'm just curious as to why you think the spread is so high when Liberty's look so bad. Are they just pricing in Liberty's going to be good again? Are they like what do you think here?
They've, I look at this. Salter's got good numbers. Maybe it's just not manifesting in the ultimate one loss. They're explosive on offense, which makes sense for a Chadwell. Offense, they're better against the run. This is what concerns me here is just the offense was there for 3 games last year once the rest in peace Grayson James was let go as a starting quarterback. And Keon Judkins had 10 minutes of great ball. He's not had it since. He had the good game against Central Michigan, which we all anticipated, but that's easy. Everybody does that against Central Michigan. You've got this is so deficient, but yeah, somehow I'm glad you have these concerns because I saw your number and it was like crap. I didn't want to bet my model, but basically if there's a variance of this was at 19 and a half last night.
Mm-hmm.
So that's playable. If you remember back, like my numbers are playable naked. I don't post them here when the variance is 11 or more. So this was a very reluctant and small play for me. I'll put it that way, like 0.2 units on this.
Yeah,
But
I'm
I just
debating. Yeah, I might
I
stay
just
away
don't
from.
like Keon Jenkins against anybody that's functional.
I might just. I might watch this game with sick fascination as to what is happening here. This spread is now obviously this gets undue attention because it's an island game. It's the only game on Tuesday night. There's only we're now on football straight through to the day before Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, not Canadian Thanksgiving. Canadian Thanksgiving is next Monday, but it's weird. This line was just stuck out to me as so weird as to it should be closer, but it was big. But then my model said it was big, should be a big spread, but yet it was really close. So yeah, this one was really weird to me. So I wanted to talk this one out. So yeah, I think I'm gonna not touch it and see what happens.
And like I said, this opened at 19 and a half. I think your thinking is right in that
Mm-hmm.
regard as relates to the market at least. All right, this is one I probably would have never thought of. Northwestern at Maryland. Maryland, they're like almost predictably good plus or competent plus or within good on offense under Loxley now. The new guy, Apex of 116. They have some explosivity in the passing game as well. Good run defense again too. This is a good offense right here. This is not a good offense here. This is what we were expecting last year from Northwestern in terms of the offense. Horrible passing game. So I think if there's any kind of weak spot relative in the Maryland defense, it's not going to be exploited. This is good enough. Interestingly, we both have Maryland with 33 points. I have them by 20. You have them by 25. So the 10, again, especially for a home game, seems like a gift. If I'm not missing like a quarterback injury or something here, I'm delighted with the 10 points here.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, the model seems to not like Northwestern. What's the one Maryland? So what? It's November Maryland that's bad, right? That's when Maryland randomly looks horrible. It's November Maryland. October Maryland is good. November Maryland's bad, right?
Isaiah is the expert on that. I think we need to,
Look at
we
the
need to
book.
ask him.
Look at the salt before we place this bet. Yes.
So, yeah. Do you want to send him a DM real quick
Well,
and
yeah, we
ask him
will.
and then we'll report back?
We'll get that as we go on to the next one. Yeah.
All right. All right. Next one. This is interesting too. Actually, we've talked about this with Isaiah as well. So this is Utah giving 6.5 at Arizona State. I don't know. I think Cam Rising should just, after he's done playing college football, should just be like a CIA asset because he's got these cover stories that just, you know, they hold up no matter what. We went through a whole thing last year. He went to Pac-12 Media Day last season and he didn't even play it down. This moved. It was at 3.5, and then they said that he might play, which for anybody else means they might play. When it comes to him, who knows what it means? Who knows what he's going to be like too? He hasn't played since. Did he play in the bowl game that last season? I don't think
No,
he did in
he
in
played week
22.
one,
I'm
and
talking
then
about.
Yeah,
Because I think he
yes,
was.
he played in the that was the Rose Bowl against Penn State, and he went down to an injury late in the Rose Bowl.
That's right, and he was
And
a
then
little
he
gimpy going into that game. Yep,
yeah,
that's
and then
right.
yeah, he didn't play all of 23. Played the first game, survived. Didn't survive the second game against Baylor. Yes, it was Baylor. It was like a bad, and they should have covered that spread. I'm still mad about that one. Yes, that one. Yes. So now it's week 7. He hasn't played in 5 weeks, and is coming off of an injury where he ran into a sideline into a water cooler, and apparently has not been able to play football for 5 weeks, which is really concerning because I've never. Obviously, people run into the sidelines all the time. Very rarely does it result in significant injury. Very rarely
Yeah.
does it result in 5 week long injuries. So I have no idea. It is interesting though. Now, obviously, my model doesn't have rising, and yours model probably also doesn't have rising in there as well. I'm not sure how much you do adjustments on a quarterback by quarterback basis, but I don't know. I do. I like Arizona State. I still have questions about Cam Rising himself, even if I think you maybe hold on because the thing is, this was only 3.5 before, and we still liked Arizona State. So if Rising doesn't play and this drops back down to 3.5, then okay, just play that,
Yeah.
right? But if he plays, you can get this at like probably 8 or something. This will jump the 7 easily, right? I wait for a better number on this. You either get a better number or you just take your win at 3.5, right? I do Arizona State. I'm still iffy on Utah. I think that
Yep.
not being able to stop Arizona was pretty damning indictment of your program. Oh, is this a dual under too? It is. Is it a dual under?
It's not, the only reason it's not is because neither of these is an elite. But I was about to
Uh
say,
it's
if you
close.
really are wanting to, if Robert's got you jonesing just to play unders because it's a lot of fun, you could do a lot worse than having two really good. This is like borderline elite because 8 points is really where you want to start here. So this is close. If it was November and I just wanted some action because the number of plays is going to go way down in November, I would probably play the under here because this is almost close enough. I wouldn't play it for a full unit, but yeah, to your point, 35 and 34, we have the exact same score basically,
Hmm.
which is more than enough. Actually, you know what? 35 and 34. Yeah, the one thing I've noticed is when my model has just for even any defense, if there's a margin of 11 or more, it's bettable. It's not at those crazy hit rates that I have on other unders, but it's you play it enough and you'll have a positive ROI. If you want to join the under club, maybe just dip your toe in on this one.
Maybe I'll think about it. I'll think about it again. If Rising's playing, that number is going to go up. So then you play it then.
Yep. Yeah. All right, boy. Here's the team we talked about in.
Wow.
I got these numbers. I got this number backwards again. I'm sorry. Just I'm a little busy and distracted at home right now. I'll just put it that way. So this GGAB belongs. These two are transposed here. So you've got Army with an apex of 265. You've got the GGAB at 275. I got this transposed too. I'm sorry, folks. UAB has just an absolutely awful, and this is transposed too. They do nothing well on offense or on defense, especially. They're horrible against the pass and run, and Army is good on both. These numbers I got right, folks. UAB very much below average on both sides of the ball. Army, like I said, is top 20 in both. This offense, I should have put it in green since it's basically elite. I think we saw a preview of this, or maybe the opening act in that Tulane game, because I think Army's got a much better offense and defense. This 48-9, and this is probably my favorite score when I pulled up yours, the 71-5. That made me grin. I'm all over Army, notwithstanding all the transpositions I did up here. Please take my
I
apologies, everybody. But yeah,
I
any
don't
good
think.
number belongs in the Army column. We'll just say that,
Yeah.
okay?
I don't think I've ever seen my model spit out 71-5 before. It's good reason. There's a good reason to, but I've never seen it spit out that. And the thing is, again, this Army offense is terrifying, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the thing is UAB last week played Tulane, which also beat them up on the ground too. Now, obviously, Tulane not a service academy school, but still though will run the ball a lot. And what happens is after a week in which you faced a lot of if you got beat up on the ground, you're generally a little bit more beat up, and that can hurt you for the next week. And then it's oh yeah, we got beat up on the ground. It's not even coming to town. Guess where we're going? We're going to upstate New York, and
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to face off against a triple option team that can also pass when they just decide to. Yeah, great. This will go well for UAB.
I have a, but I just want to prep you before I go to the next slide. This is almost a light bending number. Remember, like I've said early, like I project like a team that has negative points just because of it's early. I'm just about that there with here. Just don't ask, folks. Just somehow Stanford gets 1 point. I'm not sure, but they get
Uh,
one.
it's half of the time they run a 2 point conversion back, and half of the
Yeah,
time they don't.
yeah. So yeah, this is not tough for me. Stanford, God bless you. I love you. I'm over 3.5 on you, but this isn't the spot. You have a 0 apex. Your ground game is truly inferior to Notre Dame's. You cannot stop the pass. This might be in your favor a little bit. You've got a decent run defense, but I think that I like this better in that basically Notre Dame's been focusing on the run. You've got a elite defense here in Notre Dame. I got a total of 33. So you've got a total of 47 here. So this is not a dual model under. I've got this as one of my underplays, but we both have I've got 31 points of difference here. You've got 37. So the versus line of 23 is safely a touchdown plus. So we both have Notre Dame here. I just don't see this. This doesn't even sound fun to watch.
No, it doesn't. Interesting that we're gonna be on like a minus 25.5 and like a minus 23.5. We're like on chalk. It's not full. Like chalk would be like Bama versus someone else. That's the chalk. Not many people are like parlaying like Army minus 25.5 with a bunch of other spreads. The thing is, sometimes you can find value in these kind of lesser bet spreads.
Yeah. All right. Our Bobcats pop up again against Butch Jones and crappy Arkansas State. Jalen Raynor not following up his nice freshman season this season, and not surprisingly, they can't run the ball. They've actually improved in pass defense, although their run defense again stinks. That's just life under Butch Davis. Butch Jones got to keep on making that mistake. So, what do you have? You have a great quarterback and you have a horrible offense. Congratulations. That's what you get for hiring that guy. Texas State, we've talked about a lot all season. Equally good run and pass. What I think I really like here is even though Arkansas State's got a decent pass defense, this is going to do them in. Let's also not forget that they have a game's worth of what's that guy's name? Parker Warren, the kid at Michigan who stunk.
I don't
I think
remember
that
his
was his
name.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you've got a game worth of that in here. So that's driving that down a bit. And I think he threw 3 interceptions in that game. So that really just is helping Arkansas State here. So I don't think they're exceptional. I think they just caught the right team at the right time in that. So 14.5 is the line. I've got Texas State by 24. You have them by 29. We both have them with about the same amount of points here. So I think we're both just smarter than the market on this one.
Hopefully, we saw Texas State last week, and we both liked them, and that came through for us nicely. So maybe we do it double down, and see it again.
Yep. Plus, Troy is nowhere near as bad as Arkansas State, I don't think. So Jared Parker is trying. All right, this next one's going to be a surprise. I don't know if you saw this. This surprised me. Did not see this coming. So, Oregon State is giving 4 at Nevada. And just skipping ahead a little bit, we both have Nevada winning straight up. I have them by 14. You have them by 10. And they are catching 4 at home. So just skipping ahead a little bit, this is dual model and the vaunted wrong team favored play. So I'm splitting mine up. I'm putting a little bit on the money line too at a decent number if you're getting 4 points. I think the market is overlooking just how bad the Oregon State defense is. If you look at the raw numbers, they look roughly competitive, except for here where Oregon State has an advantage in the rushing game. So I actually just wanted to look up by my metrics, what's the strength of opponent? So huge difference in the strength of opponent. Oregon State's strength of schedule in terms of defenses that their offense have played, 0.93 and Nevada 1.05. So Oregon State is below average. Nevada is actually above average. Remember, Nevada played SMU. They were at Troy, who's not great, but at least it was a road game. Oregon State, their one tough opponent has been Oregon. After that, I think they've had a lot of nothing. And remember, I think they're getting a little too much credit for Purdue, for trouncing Purdue, but Purdue is just towards the bottom of the Power Four for sure. And we're seeing on the defense side of the ball too, Nevada's just played almost an average schedule, and Oregon State is well, well below average. So when you normalize some of these raw numbers up here for strength of schedule, you're getting offenses that are about roughly the same and a defense that's much better on Nevada's side than Oregon State's side. So I think that's how we're both getting to a 2-score game here that's won by the dog.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I saw this one and I was like, oh, that must be wrong. I'm just going to leave it alone. But looking at the spread, it's only Oregon State -4. That's a very clear indication of we don't want to. We're not going to put a big number on Oregon State here. And yeah, that's not a great sign for Oregon State if you're only giving 4 at Nevada. Ooh, yeah, I
It kind of stinks. Although,
it
again,
does.
these Power 2 teams, I'm not looking for opportunities, but this one just the model spat it out, and your model spat it out and confirmed too. And you're looking at a big margin.
Yeah, I think I will take Nevada here. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go with the Wolfpack.
All right. I'm gonna I'm gonna dip my pen in Louisiana inkwell again, and hopefully they'll treat us better this time instead of screwing around like they did last week against Southern Miss. App State, their defensive problems have been well documented here. Not good against basically anything. They do have an explosive offense, although they have a problem getting it to the guys without throwing it to the other team, apparently. The running game is squarely in favor of Louisiana as well. I actually liked Louisiana's defense coming in this season. You've just got a huge difference here. And what really would concern me is once App State is behind and you've got a disappointing quarterback this season going against a pretty good Sun Belt defense, that could really get ugly. Like I said, what I'm all showing is just we've been talking about this for a few weeks now, just how bad the App State defense is. So mine is 10.5. I have the favorite by 20. You have the favorite by 28. So even though they didn't treat us right last week, definitely I'm going back to Louisiana.
Yeah, I like it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Hey, guess what? We're going to talk more about Iowa State. I've talked about this already, so I won't dwell on it too much. But again, you've got an elite pass defense here. West Virginia, pretty good run, very good run offense. But guess who actually has a just as good as a run offense here is Iowa State, and they can throw the ball better. Explosivity is about the same. This is a problem. I cannot stop the pass. And Iowa State's not the most fearsome, but you are talking about this is explosivity here. So this and this against this is really going to be tough. And this should be in green, pardon me. You've got a truly elite defense here, especially against the pass. Really weird thing to say about an Iowa State game. I don't see the other team keeping pace with Iowa State offensively. So Iowa State's giving 3. I've got this as a 15-point game. You've got this as a 12-point game. We've got roughly the same score with a field goal here or there. I'm all over this. I'm going to say it again. The market's behind on Iowa State. I think it's just that simple.
Yeah, this one I've bet this one already. It is a little iffy going into Morgantown on the road. You always worry about that, and I think that's why they're giving that the respect to the -3. But no, I don't see it. I really like Iowa State. I think again, we for some reason people don't talk about Iowa State,
Yeah.
and they're really good. They really should talk about them more. So yeah, I like Iowa State here.
Maybe we should. Yeah, shit. Okay. This is going to be it. Where I refer to another movie where you have no idea what I'm talking about. Do you know the movie Fight Club?
Yes, I know. I know.
Okay.
I know the tagline in Fight Club. Yes.
So, yeah, I think we should refer to Iowa as Iowa State as Fight Club because literally the
Yes.
nation is like the first rule about Iowa State is not do not talk about Iowa State because nobody talks about Iowa State except for us.
Yes, I think we're the only ones who talk about Iowa State. We're also the only ones who have Iowa State playoff and Big 12 futures, so that's fine. And they're the favorites now,
Yep.
but we still don't talk about Iowa State for some reason.
All right, then. So that's all the dual model plays. We got my total plays here. First one, Texas Oklahoma, is also a dual model play. Then after that, this is really interesting. And I think you were talking about how Iowa is different this year. I cannot remember now. I've only been modeling out totals for 4 years now. This is the first time I've had an over in an Iowa game. It's always been you cannot have a number low enough. You cannot have a number low enough. And here I've got 55. And this is with a good Washington defense, too. Remember, I was talking about Iowa's defense is not that good this season. They're good, but they're not usual Iowa level. And Washington's good on both sides of the ball. You've got it a little bit over, but I've got a lot of margin here. We've got 14 points worth. Two good defenses in South Carolina and Alabama. I got 10 points of margin here. That's fine. I was talking about this in part one. I've got this going way over here since at Central Florida. Now I'm good with this still because, like I said, this number's been normalized, and really a lot of the points here are coming from an elite Cincinnati offense. I think we talked about that when they played Texas Tech a couple weeks ago. So maybe just if Central Florida can do any reversion to prior form, that'll be a bonus. Louisville, we talked about the number one offense by my metrics here, so I've got an overplay there. I've got that going 15 points over. Cal at Pitt under, that's based on the Cal defense, how that winds up against what's been a pretty good Cal offense, or Pitt offense concerns me. We've talked about Stanford has no chance against Notre Dame, and I've got them with 1 point. Maybe that's, I don't know. We'll see if that comes into play. If I lose it by one, that's where my error was. BYU defense, we talked about them. They're elite this season. Interesting, Arizona, boy, they really stunk last week against a Texas Tech defense that can be had more often than not. So, like the under here. Do not like Mississippi State at Georgia. Carson Beck, maybe this is where he can break out and just play as good as like Toledo did. He's not been the same guy this year as we saw last year, and the play calling sucks too. They really don't try to do anything. They keep it all within short to the line of scrimmage, and maybe they can stretch their legs with the home game against a bad defense. Tennessee's going to be that sneaky under machine, I think, for a while still. I think people just have the mistaken identity that they're a real offensive minded team, and the strength of that team is the defense. Next play, I talked about Minnesota at UCLA. Minnesota pass defense as good as it gets. UCLA either with a pretty injured and bad Ethan Garbers or a new kid who has no chance against that defense like that. And this next one is I'm a little concerned. This is based on the Kansas State offense who just jumped into the top 10. I've got a margin of 7 here. Overs aren't my favorite play compared to unders. You've got a number that I don't know. Were it up to me and we're going to offer any judgment on the plays, I'd probably just pass on this. But if I try to outsmart my model, that's when I really start to feel stupid. So what sticks out to you in the totals here?
Yeah, in the totals, I think the Florida Tennessee under is interesting. I think my model has that as like sneakily outskirts competitive. I think the spread is like
Yeah.
16. I have that as 12 or something. Okay, not competitive, but not a blowout though. And I think I have that a bit under as well. It's still a 4 point margin to the under as well. That's interesting. Kansas State at Colorado is another interesting one. The spread is 5.5. My model likes Colorado. I don't know what your model has. Do you have? I would have thought for sure my model was going to be like all over Kansas State on that one, but apparently no. Yeah.
I've got that literally like a tie game. I have the margin of zero point 0.2 points.
Wow. Are we
So
gonna have to
maybe it
bet?
goes,
Are we
maybe
gonna
that's how
bet
I get
on?
to the over because it's a tie game and it goes to overtime.
Are we gonna have to bet Colorado there? Yeah, that's fine, but like 5.5, that's a lot of points to. I don't know. Interesting. That was what I'm thinking of as well. And then Cal Pitt is interesting as well. I love Cal in Pitt in that game actually. I think Cal is coming off of an emotional loss, traveling cross country again to a Pitt team is actually good. I think that spread's only 3.5. Kind of Pitt there as well, but the over under is maybe sneaky under there as well too. Cal not the greatest on offense, and they'll should be able to hold Pitt down a little bit, and Pitt might just smother them a bit on defense as well, and just make a relatively low scoring game there. That one's interesting as well. I'm thinking about that one. But yeah, some interesting plays this week. There's going to be some really good games this week, and then some games that like are sneakily also really good, like the the last game on the second last game on the schedule. I shouldn't say last game because Hawaii Boise is Saturday night at 11 o'clock Eastern. But Kansas State Colorado 10:30 Eastern, that one is sneakily good as well because that could be actually that's a Big 12 after dark game which nothing ever happens in a Big 12 after dark game. Of course, nothing happens. I'm interested in that one. I'm going to be watching that one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I'm curious. Do you have any desire, any interest in Washington and Iowa going over that 41.
Maybe, possibly.
I'm so tepid on that. I can't, again, I can't argue with my model, but
It's
God,
it's
that just
it's
frightens me.
it's interesting. It's like dipping a toe into a pool. You're like, maybe this could be good. Maybe, right? It's interesting. I think that's probably where the value is because people are gonna say, oh, Washington traveling cross country, blah 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 blah. But yeah, like maybe like I mean, the Iowa has been doing better. I think like the whole thing is that Iowa doesn't score points. They scored 7 against Ohio State. Not a lot, but still something. Like Iowa will help you a bit to get to that over. So like it's not like Washington's gonna have to do a lot. Plus that spread is competitive. It's like a 3, right? So I think Washington that might be an interesting over to play actually. And I think if you think back to the Washington Rutgers game, that game probably should have also gone over too, based on the expected outcome. Like Washington should have won that game by a lot more than they did, but then had those points been scored, it would have gone over. I think. So I'm a bit more intrigued by that one. I think than I think it normally would seem. But I think I'd be interested in that over. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm again, another one I'm playing just because I don't want to try to outsmart my model. We'll see. All right, preseason predictions. So when we did our preseason upset predictions, I don't know what I was thinking. UAB over Tulane. That is probably the worst prediction of anything on this whole grid. So let me have it. Um, I was right on Pitt over North Carolina though, so made good on that. You lost on Stanford over Virginia Tech. You barely lost over with ODU over Coastal. That was actually a close game. And then Brendan had Auburn over Georgia. Not quite, although Georgia seemed to want to help them until Auburn just refused. This week, you've got Oklahoma over Texas. Sorry, buddy. I can't be with you on
Yeah,
this one.
yeah. No, I'm not happy about it either. Dems the breaks. We'll see. I don't know. But we'll play the under in that game though, for sure.
Yeah. So, and with that is it. Again, thank you everybody for listening and watching. Our numbers are up. We really appreciate it. It makes us feel appreciated, loved, and smart, and all that good stuff. And hopefully, by listening and picking some stuff up, you've become better players. And if you're just tailing our picks, you've got a pretty nice ROI. And we thank you so much. Good luck this week. Just a note, next week we might be on a little later, and we're probably looking at a single episode versus two, but stay tuned for that. In the meantime, good luck, everybody.
Yep. See ya.